It's a beautiful evening. Welcome to another beautiful edition of Sports Extraordinary here on Atlantic Television Network. My name is Ekpo Temple, and of course I have my co-host this evening, Emmanuel Michael, here is in the studio. Mike, it's a beautiful evening. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Temple. It's always a delight to talk sport right here on Atlantic Television Network. On
Sports Extraordinary today, we'll take a look at all that has happened in the last 24 hours. We'll also do an update on Libya versus Nigeria AFCON qualifier. What is CAF saying, and then other top stories in the world of sports this evening. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back for more conversation after this time out. Welcome back from that break, and we'll get started with our news making round from the African Cup of Nations. We hear that the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has delisted or postponed the Group D second leg fixture of the ongoing 2025 AFCON qualifier game between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and the Mediterranean Knights of Libya. That game was earlier scheduled to take place in the next couple of hours from now, maybe probably 2 hours from now, 8 p.m. precisely, after the first leg took place in Gosul Akpabio Stadium in Uyo last Friday. But the Super Eagles, of course, we saw all that played that yesterday. They won that particular game 1-0, and of course, hoping that they can play this one today. Unfortunately, a lot of controversies made that particular one, and so CAF has issued a statement saying that that game will be postponed, and of course, the Nigerian team have already returned back home as at yesterday. So, Mike, it is a clear, the clear notification now, update from the CAF headquarters saying that games are ongoing right now, but that particular game has been postponed.
Yes, of course, truly deserve to be postponed. Looking at the whole challenges surrounding around the Super Eagles and that of Libya, in Libya's foil attempt, to hold the Super Eagles hostage, you saw the harsh treatment they actually suffered in the hands of the Libyans when they traveled away to keep a date for their game that was supposed to be played today. But then their air flight was dangerously diverted. Instead of landing at Benghazi, it had to land at Al-Barak, where it looked as though a place that was deserted. In fact, they actually spent 19 good hours without food, without water, without Wi-Fi. So for me, I think that is the reason why the Super Eagles, had to deem it necessary to boycott that game, because their life were in danger. And looking at the circumstances surrounding around the Super Eagles while they were away at Libya, there is no any sane human being that will also advocate that match goes on for today, because I think for me that lacks the spirit of sportsmanship that we keep talking about. I think for the Libyans, they did not actually show a good gesture to their big brother, because Nigeria is a big brother to Libya, who played vital roles during the days of Muammar Gaddafi to ensure that their economy were able to be stable. And this is the way they are paying us back in a very negative coin. So for me, and that is why CAF need to wade in, because they are the highest, decision makers when it has to do with African football. And for me, very timely, they have to reschedule this match, wait for the disciplinary committee to do their proper investigation. Then maybe just a date will be refixed for the match, or better still, if proper finding is done, a 3-point and 3 goals will be awarded to Nigeria as it is. But for now, CAF is saying, hold on, those two parties, let us do our own proper investigation. So for me, that is the way to go.
It is the way to go, and of course, we also hear that investigations are on currently. The CAF has opened an investigation to ascertain the veracity of the crisis between Libya and Nigeria. Of course, the Libyan side were expected to host the Super Eagles, yesterday, preparing them against today, but then it seems to have been cancelled, and this is because of the poorly treated report from the camp of the Super Eagles. And CAF has been in contact with the Libyan and the Nigerian authorities after it has been informed that the Nigerian national team, Super Eagles, and the technical team were stranded in a disturbing condition. So the big word there is a disturbing condition. So CAF, in its wisdom, felt, okay, let's postpone this game, let's investigate, and let's allow the disciplinary board to do further investigations to ascertain the veracity of this. And these investigations cannot be done without looking at whose party that violated the CAF status, and that's very clear. So their work is well cut out.
Definitely well cut out, and both parties have to bring their own evidence, because he who goes to equity must go with a clean hand, it is said. Then he who alleges must prove, not just proving, but prove beyond reasonable doubt. It is called preponderance of the evidence in the law court. And for me, I think this is the right thing for them to do. Both parties, talking about the Super Eagles and Libya, FA, they will be doing their own investigation and trying to come up with a very strong statement as well, to present to the CAF disciplinary committee. But then, from all indication, Temple, I tell you, the rules are very clear, and going by the rules that governs the game, in the Article 16, it clearly spelled out what teams are required to do. In the Article 16 of the CAF, it clearly states that if you are an away team going to honor a match, then the responsibility of making sure that your welfare, your traveling arrangement, logistic issues is properly taken care by the home team. They were supposed to receive you, but then the Libyans, they failed in all odds. As they got to the stadium, their plane was diverted from where it was supposed to land. Getting to an unknown destination, they had to put call across to the FA president. He declined receiving his call. After some time, he continued to say that the boss is coming to pick them for 1 minute, 2 minutes, getting to 1 hour, 3 hours, until 19 hours. Also, for me, it's very clear, and the evidence are there for the Super Eagles of Team Nigeria to also make a good case for themselves. And of course, you listen to the statement that was released by NFF spokesperson talking about Olajire out there, who spelled out about 20 good points why they had to pull out of that very one. So for me, I think CAF is very, very sensitive at this point in time, because this is a sensitive issue that need not to be rushed. They have to clearly do a proper investigation to see who was actually at fault. And from all facts on ground, it was very clear that the Libyans actually, maltreated the Super Eagles in a way and manner that it is very, very unprofessional.
Very, very unprofessional. And I mean, talking about unprofessionalism, if you look at the substance of the matter, just before the release from CAF, the Libyan FA president also tendered his resignation, and a lot of persons are asking, why tender resignation if you think that you are on the right path? I mean, judging from what has transpired, it looks like it looks like that is a conspiracy, from the football authority and not the government, so to say.
No, it's looking as though maybe the FA president who tendered his resignation is not part and parcel of this plan. Because if he were to be a part and parcel of he wouldn't have resigned. He would have sit in office to fight to the end to get their point, to score their cheap point.
What if what's it called? The resignation is as a result of, you know, there are some climes when anything happens in your this thing, you are heading the petition, you drop. No, what if the sports minister is not in alignment with what has happened? And then, of course, you know that they practice a different style of government as compared to us. That is monarchical. And so the man is saying, I am not aware of what has happened. Can you, if it happens, come and update me with what has happened. Why did we get to this point? Or how did we get to this point? And maybe the man could not and say, if you don't want us to sack you, please send that resignation in good faith. Because a lot of drama would have played out in that scenario. Because I'm still wondering why in fact, barely 24 hours when the controversy erupted, he tendered a resignation letter, although we're yet to hear from him. And then, CAF in their wisdom too, maybe because internal investigations are still on, that would have guided them to say, something to me just looks not right and fishy. But we're yet to hear. They have come out to blame us, you know, and then expressing concern. But like we heard in law, reciprocity of an outcome, it doesn't count, because what matters is what is presented. Who goes to equity, like you goes to the criminal. And in the court of law, the complainer has bigger chunk of chances of winning a particular case because he's the complainer. So Nigeria in this case looks like they're complainer, but then the man has resigned, and that looks that even makes the matter worse a little bit, or bogus, as to knowing first off, why will a man resign at the peak of such controversy?
A man that has an integrity, a man that is in a position where other bodies, while more power, more influence than him, you know, we don't want to take part in such dirty tricks.
Did you say with more power? Because he's like Gusau.
It's like Gusau, but don't forget, there are other powers behind that can also impeach Gusau, even as he's seated as the NFF president.
I agree.
There are powers that even brought him to be.
True.
And he cannot manipulate that power because they gave him by...
But should it have been at the thick of the crisis or the controversy?
And that is why I'm saying that we need to be very, very sensitive and tread with caution the way we are able to, you know, deal with this issue. What if this man is not part and parcel of this grand plan to frustrate the effort of Nigeria? And just because he's the FA president, you know, the authority that be, they forced him to do that. Don't also forget that even before this whole brouhaha, the Libyan National Daily, 3 days, had carried out a report, more like what we call a Punch or Vanguard here, National Daily, that the Super Eagles will be actually frustrated. These are the grand plan. That has been on ground already before this matter. So the man, maybe, just maybe, is innocent in this case. He does not like the way Nigerians or the Super Eagles were treated. Instead of his name to be soiled, like it is done in a Senate climb, when you are occupying a certain strategic position and something goes wrong, you know that everybody will point accusing fingers against you. The next thing you do, you don't even wait until you are asked to resign. You pen down resignation letter, you throw in the towel just to maintain that integrity. So maybe, just maybe, this is what the president is trying to protect.
That's not applicable in our case. In the case of the Spanish president, you know, does not the evidences were overwhelming, and the pressure was high. So he needed to resign. So, and he threw in the towel. In this case...
No, Rubiales' case, he was actually forced to resign.
I'm telling you now, but
this man was not forced to resign.
No, but the FIFA status is very clear. FIFA had never waded into it at that time. So nobody would have forced him to resign if he did not want to. Because any act of external interference will be looked at it from political interference, which FIFA do not align at all agree with. So the truth is, the man has thrown the towel, maybe for reasons we are yet to know. But the timing, I don't think it's about pressure, because if, like you said, if it's about if he's in line with them, he will want to stand up and see to the end of this matter.
That is what I'm saying, that the man may just be innocent. He was pushed, to be part of those
maybe he
acts.
might also still be. He might. I use the word might because it's not revealed whether he is or not. But maybe the sports minister or somebody, because who gave the order for the diverting of the plane? So it was a bigger order.
And the pilot said that it was order from above. Just listen. If you listen to the Egyptian pilot, he made a Tunisian pilot. He said that there was no issue of landing. He had his papers complete. Everything was properly checked. And instead of landing at Benghazi, suddenly an order from above authority.
That means those authorities control the aviation sector in the country.
Exactly, and that authority might be behind the scene that actually pushed the president, who resigned right now, to do what he was not supposed to do. And the man maybe just looked at it and said, no, I can't stand this shame in my era as the chairperson of football to see this kind of shame and embarrassment.
Because he was supposed to be the one that would have sent, protocol to receive
through the Super Eagles team.
All right, I can update to you that there is a game currently ongoing now. 56 minutes so far played in the game between Niger Republic and Angola. Angola currently leading that game, 1-0, away from home, and it looks like the Angolans, they will get to win this one. I hope of qualifying looks very, very likely, and more games still ongoing. We'll address you with more of that, but let's come back to more of what we have, and I can tell you that a lot to discuss, Mike.
Yeah, a lot to discuss this evening on the show, because Temple, Lukman Ademola have also voiced his frustration about CAF. He actually blamed CAF for failure to provide the video assistant referee in the AFCON qualifiers game that I've seen his two legit goals cancelled. Of course, you remember the game against Rwanda away. He actually scored what seemed to be a goal, but he was ruled for an offside. Then again, in the return leg on Friday, where we played at the Gospel Akpabio International Stadium against this same Libya, he scored a clear goal, but it was ruled for an offside. So the man has come out to blame CAF for not introducing the video assistant ref. And at this point, do you think that CAF is right in their wisdom not to introduce the VAR in the AFCON qualifiers game?
First off, CAF do have a selective VAR policy, using it at starting stages of the AFCON competition because of manpower resource, and because as it stands now, like 4 or 5 games are ongoing.
Yeah.
Do they have the magic wand to be at every location? I don't think so. So to them, they are saying, okay, we are at this particular level, we are going to use it. But for me, I think that CAF should have looked at top games every window. Regardless of the policy. After all, you are still going to use it. After all, in almost all the matches played at the AFCON competition, you used it. So, if we have 3 or 4 matches at every point in time, and you have to do logistics plan, all right, from once, because in the AFCON competition played this year, we saw it clearly in Ivory Coast, where those things were used. So, if you don't have enough manpower, so to say, and you need to use that. What I think that is, even if it's 2 centers that you can deploy perfectly, let's get to use them. For example, the game between South Africa and Nigeria, you use VAR. There are controversial matches, especially in group. You look at the groupings, and then you can deploy it. I don't see any reason why we have a particular thing and then it is lying low because you want to get a particular center in AFCON. In AFCON is understandable, but in this, it makes no sense at all. I know that we may not have, in comparison with what's happening in Europe, we may not be strong enough to say this is where we are. But I still think that it gets to a level that we need to deploy it. We need to, after all, in the CAF Champions League games and all that, Confederation Cup, we use some of those things at a particular level too. So in qualifiers comes, it is what binds us. You should be able to deploy it too. So there's no excuse why we should not have VAR, even if it's very expensive. There are countries that are also using VAR. CAF has also partnered with them. You need to, these are things that they take loan. Mosepe should look for a way to get, to align with the with the strategic committee of CAF, and draw put more funding into that area, because VAR is the in thing now, and there are decisions that human error can be made if VAR is not experimented or used in a particular center. So for me, I think that the legitimate cry of Ademola Lookman is correct, but I am just looking at it from the prism of the way the media has painted it, frustrated. I mean, the way the painting look like, I don't want him to be at loggerhead with CAF. You know why? Because he's already listed as one of the best player of CAF this year. So you don't make them not start to look at it from as a deviant. And so, but for me, I think that his cry genuinely is a concern that CAF should look at critically and see what they can do. I don't also want to believe that CAF aren't looking at it. I want to believe that they are, but they are just crowded with impediments that may not allow the utilization of VAR for now.
Well, you had it there from Mr. Temple there, but then I think this is a genuine and acceptable, cry from Lukman Ademola, who have had his 2 goals, cancelled, courtesy of, not making use of the VAR, and he has come out to blame CAF for not introducing the VAR. But moving on, we had some games yesterday as well that took place in the African Cup of Nations. We saw Gambia defeating Madagascar 1-0. Namibia also lost to Zambia 3-1. Eswatini were dismantled at their home ground by Mozambique 3-0. Togo also lost 0-1 against Algeria. We also saw Kenya, losing at home against Cameroon. But Temple, let me bring you in. The game that interests me much is about Zimbabwe. Yeah, they defeated Eswatini 3-0, and courtesy of that result, they are inching closer to African Cup of Nations Cup qualifier. Do you see them, qualifying for the African Cup of Nations?
Yeah, I think so. Every win now is very important. You need to win for you to be sure of the next move, and I think clearly with the way they are going, you need to look at the point margin at what is happening in the group. It's not been easy for some of the group, because some of the groups needs to, you need more points to see how far you can go. And certainly for me, it's very important that you need to push through and see how far. But for me, if you ask me as to what is really happening, I want to believe that Mozambique have done very well, but then they need to be very, very. It is not an easy group where they are. They need to win 2 more games, and maybe get to win 2 of their last games, and be hopeful, because if you get 6 points at that level, the truth of the matter is that any team who gets 10 points plus, depending on the group you are, you stand a better chance of qualifying. So for them, 3 goals, and 3 points is very massive for a team like Mozambique. But then it doesn't end there, because that result is also dependent on what other teams play in their group.
Yeah, but we also saw another beautiful game this evening, where we saw Senegal leaving it late against Malawi. It has to come from the boot of Sadio Mane, the former Liverpool star man. He struck very, very late in the game, 96 minutes, to give Senegal all 3 points. Courtesy of that victory right now, Senegal have qualified for the African Cup of Nations, because as it is, they have 10 points right now with 2 games to spare as well. DR Congo also joined the likes of Senegal in the qualification for the African Cup of Nations 2025 edition, as they defeated Tanzania 2-0. Uganda as well is itching very close to qualification with a 2-0 win over South Sudan, as it is right now. But Tempo, the likes of Senegal, DR Congo, these are the 2 teams joining the first team that already qualified for the African Cup of Nations. Senegal and Sadio Mane still pulling the strings, despite not, plying his trade in one of maybe top Europe league out there. He plies his trade for Al Nassr right now, and he's still doing very well. Yeah,
he's doing very well, and that shows the top quality. That game was played in Lilongwe, and then they were able in Malawi, and of course were able to get to see him display. Scored in 96 minutes, makes it very easy, for his side. And this is just barely a few months when his coach, Aloy Cisse, left the side. And for him, for those of you anybody who follows the Teranga Lions very well, you know that he's a talisman. He is one man who who shoulders the burden of the team. And clearly, I think that what we have seen is just, a fact to say that he wants to be at the next African Cup of Nations. Since he's moved to NSL in the Saudi Pro League, we have not seen him display, that limelight that he's used to, as when he was playing for Liverpool back then. But somehow, he has been part and parcel of his team. He has shouldered the burden of his team, and of course, he also wants to be part of the African Cup of Nations. Although they did not achieve their goal of moving on the way they did the last time out, and they've also dropped, from the African #1 since they won in the AFCON in 2021. But regardless, we have seen the Senegalese side that are full of determination. They have this never die spirit. But I just want to believe that this win will galvanize them. They have not picked a point to be in Morocco next year. I think it's the sign of relief for them. They have one round of matches to spare. Let's see how far they can maneuver. And that's what I said. The big side always have a way to win and go through. And clearly, it is very important that they need to move on.
Clearly, it is very, very important and they need to move on. But still talking some African Cup of Nations Cup qualification issues right now. We head straight to the camp of the Benin Republic, as the FA president of Benin Republic has actually promised the players the sum of 100,000 euros if they get to qualify for this year, for next year's African Cup of Nations. What do you make of the monetary incentive of Benin Republic? Don't forget, they are also very, very strong side, tutored by the former Super Eagles coach, Kenneth Rowe. Now, the FA president is promising the players the sum of 100,000 euros if they get to qualify.
They need the win to be sure of qualification. True. Because as it stands now, if they win today, they topple Nigeria. True. Because of the postponement of the game. So what it implies is, if they beat Rwanda away from home, which looks unlikely, because as at the time when we came to the studio, the game was still 1-1, and clearly, it was still goalless. Genetro is a master tactician. How can he break down the defensive framework of the Rwandans? I think that it will be a very cagey encounter. We are yet to know the result. Maybe before the end of the show today, we'll get to know the result of the game. But clearly, one thing I know for sure is that it won't be easy at all for Genetro and his side. But monetary incentive can be a motivational factor, to pull out the chestnut from fire. And I just want to see them achieve that. They have really done so well. Take nothing for granted. They've been one of the fantastic sides in the group, if you remove Nigeria. And I want to see them qualify. I believe that if they can pull a draw today, even a draw, we'll be a little bit, we'll serve them right, because they have to play Nigeria now and maybe play Libya again in the last round.
Maybe they have to play Nigeria again in the last round, but they are etching very close to qualification as it is. They have been boosted by the promise of the FA president of 100,000 euros cash reward if they get to win their game against Rwanda. But let's have you some other fixtures that is built for today. In fact, as we speak right now, some of the matches are currently ongoing. But we see Sudan trading tackles with Ghana, but that match is already done and dusted. And Ghana, surprisingly, lost their game to Sudan, 2-0 as it is. And they are in a very tight position right now for the 2025 African Cup of Nations Cup qualifier. Malawi also plays Senegal. That match is already done and dusted. Senegal won that one that we told you earlier. Courtesy of that goal coming from the boot of Sadio Mane. South Sudan against Uganda. Chad will play host to Zambia, while Lesotho will also trade tackle with Gabon. Tanzania will host DR Congo. Mauritania will play Egypt. That match is currently on. Botswana will also welcome Cape Verde. Sierra Leone will play host to Ivory Coast. Congo will trade tackles with South Africa. We also have Central African Republic playing Morocco. Ethiopia will be at home to welcome Guinea, while Comoros will play host to Tunisia. Some of this game is currently ongoing right now. So these are the fixtures for the African Cup of Nations Cup qualifier for today. But let me pass the ball back to Ekpo Temple, because he has some other sporting stories to furnish us with.
Yeah, I think that I want to appreciate the effort of Angola. Angola have really shown strength.
Okay.
You know, since they hosted in 2010, the African Cup of Nations, and also went to the World Cup that same year. Remember,
True.
You I mean, they have not been at the best, but somehow we've seen a resurgent Angolan side going away from home, you know, to play Niger 1-0 currently. That game is in the 69th minute so far, and more games. I'm sure that we're going to see a lot. And the good about it, if you have 3 points in today's encounter, you have 2 more games to play.
True.
That puts every team at the edge.
True.
So every team wants to get this maximum point to be sure, especially the home teams, because you know I can tell in the next 2 couple of games, which is the decider, and because next year is the preparation. So let's see how far. But with that, now we're going to short break. When we come back, we'll still have more to bring from the European scene. Don't go anywhere. This is Sports Extraordinary on Atlantic Television Network.
The people of Maiduguri need your help. A catastrophic flood has engulfed the city, leaving over 1 million residents stranded and fighting for survival. Entire communities are submerged, with people trapped inside homes and on rooftops cut off from food, clean drinking water and essential supplies. Health experts are warning of a potential outbreak of deadly diseases, and medical facilities are out of commission. The situation is dire. Helicopters, boats and high-riding trucks capable of navigating the treacherous, waterlogged areas are urgently required to reach the countless men, women and children still awaiting rescue. The Nigerian media is issuing a desperate plea to the government, humanitarian organizations, international actors and citizens across the nation. Step in now, before it's too late. For more information on how you can help, contact Professor Usman A. Tar, the Honorable Commissioner for Information and Internal Security, Borno State, on 0809-233-3955. Every second counts.
This is powered by Atlantic Television Network.
Some of the results from the international window Of course, we talked about the African Cup of Nations qualifiers, not also forgetting the European scene where, of course, yesterday, Randa Kolo Muani scored twice as France beat Belgium in an incident-packed UEFA Nations League match in Brussels. Yuri Telemans has killed a penalty for the host after William Saliba brought down Lois Openda, a decision given by the video assistant referee, VAR. But somehow, France then won a penalty of their own when Watford handed the ball on the ground and Kolo sent the goalkeeper the wrong way. So it was a drama-filled encounter, but Maoni was in top form to ensure that his brain
That was at when France was leading 2-1. 80-something minutes or thereabout for the game too. So he actually, showed that indeed he is able to take one bullet for the team. So he had to take the red card as a captain of the side just to prevent the game being at 2-2. So for me, but I tell you, it was a very keenly contested encounter. Belgium at the nick of time asked so many questions. They nearly drew level at the nick of time, but then the French national team, Les Blues, as they are fondly called, kept their own cool and ensured that they got away with all 3 points.
Got away with all 3 points, and I can tell you that it wasn't France alone and Belgium that were on the field of play yesterday. Azerbaijan and Slovakia locked on, and of course, Azerbaijan lost that game 1-3. And Georgia at home also lost to Albania. Belgium lost, I talked about that particular already. Bosnia and Herzegovina also lost to Hungary. 2-0 is ended. Estonia lost at home to Sweden. Germany, the only home team so far that have won, and then against Netherlands. That game was a very crunch encounter, but somehow the German side showed that in this new era that they are a team to grind that point, that result, regardless of how they play.
True, it was a very tight game, I must tell you. But then the German machine, they actually proved once more that them getting, very fine. They just concluded the Euro wasn't a fluke where they hosted that very one, put up an impressive display, but were eventually knocked out by the eventual winner. Talking about the Spanish national team out there. Of course, you take a look at their game build-up, the way they are able to organize themselves. We say that the coach is doing a good job, and they have young crops of talented players as it is right now. Most of them playing their thread out there in the German Bundesliga, so you should expect that synergy, that understanding, to exist between them.
And of course, Iceland also lost to Turkey at home. Italy, 4-1 better off than Israel. And one thing fantastic about it is getting to see the third generation of Maldini, playing that particular one. The great-grandfather, the father, and the son have all now played, for the time. This is the first time we're seeing a generation, a full generation of family playing for the national team, which was very fantastic in that game yesterday. Ukraine played a one-off draw with Czech Republic, and also another thing very familiar, with games like this is getting to see 5 teams lost at home yesterday, in fantastic format. But then it tells you that in Europe, anything can lose lose at home, and clearly, some of the teams played at home. It's Azerbaijan, just name them. They all played at home as compared to Africa.
Yeah, for me, I think is the difference between European football and the African football. There, if you don't prepare very well, despite the fact that you're a world power, you have a high, pedigree when it has to do with the game. But if you don't prepare very well, you just see your opponent coming to defeat you at your home ground out there. Even Germany, that boasts of a whole lot of talent, they struggled against Netherlands yesterday, even for the fact they were playing at home. Belgium lost at home to France, so I think it is the beauty of the game I'm also hoping to see Africa, though we are getting there gradually. We are beginning to see teams going away to pick all 3 points, but then we need to also make it more like a norm where teams can go away from home and pick all 3 points with ease and still come back, you know. So for me, I think it is one of the beauty of the game out there where we see away victories from away team out there.
And of course, there are games to watch out for. Some of the games will start up in the next couple of, the next 1 hour, so to say, because Belarus will take on Luxembourg, and 7:45 that game will come alive. Kosovo and Cyprus also same time. Lithuania versus Romania. Ireland will take on Bulgaria. Poland versus Croatia. Scotland will take on Portugal. Spain versus Serbia. Switzerland will take on Denmark. Which match will you be watching out for, Mike, this evening?
All these matches are very, very interesting game. Looking at the positions in the table for this team, all these games are very, very important. You talk about Turkey, Portugal, Croatia. They are at the verge of making 1 point or the other. Some of the games are make or break game for some of the teams. So I'll put an eye on almost all of the games.
And of course, Mike, looks like something. I mean, you have a report from Alex. Ferguson.
Yeah. Just this afternoon, we heard that the co-owner of Manchester United, Jim Ratcliffe, and the Ineos, company have made it as a point of duty to terminate the ambassadorial role of Alex Ferguson after this season. We could also recall that, Sir Alex Ferguson, one of the greatest icons of the game at Old Trafford, stepped down as a coach of the Red Devil in 2013. Since then, has assumed the role of the ambassadorial role. But then, the Ineos company, we hear they want to cut down expenditures because the man was being paid the sum of £2 million. Times that from 2013 till now, a huge amount of money. So the Ineos company are thinking something different. At the end of this season, Sir Alex Ferguson is not going to be paid any longer as the ambassador of Manchester United. But then he's allowed to come to the stadium and take his stand. I don't know what you make of that. The man has paid his dues.
The man has paid his dues, and of course, a man who has won 2 Champions League, 5 FA Cup, and 4 League Cups doesn't get better than that. But like I tell you for sure, I think that the economic reality must be looked into. You cannot just think that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, took the bull by the horn. It doesn't matter how far. The club is a business, and for whatever reason, when a man has been given such financial chunk from 2013 till now, I mean that's respect. So I think that what they needed to do is what is proper, what is best for the best interest of the club, and no bias about it. And that's why it is part of the decision of the club in the last annual meeting, when a lot of people thought about the issue of Eric Ten Hag before the international break. Yeah. And somehow it has been resolved. It's just a matter of implementing some of the decisions from the meeting. And I think that they did it in good faith. I also think that a lot of people will understand and not look at it from different perspectives. Why research is still ongoing, I still feel that a stand has been given, the Ferguson stand, which allows him to come to the stadium and have his seat, his place, anytime, any day. In fact, he has etched his name in the annals of the club, and that cannot be taken for granted. But the financial activities and the withdrawals that chinks into his account is just what we're looking at now. And the Ineos company are saying no. Yes, you have a very strong role to play in this club. You're an ambassador. As a matter of fact, he will no longer be ambassador because at that age, I mean, he's not strong enough to continue. And the man has done a lot. It's time for him to go and rest at that stage. And unlike in Africa, I mean, a lot of conspiracy theory we come up, but it is normal, and I'm sure they would have done it in consultation with the Ferguson's family. But regardless, I think that they did it in good faith, and decisions should be accepted by all stakeholders, especially those from the Manchester United setup.
They did it in good faith, and all decisions should be accepted by the both parties. But before we leave the studio this evening, we still have other sporting story popping up in the last few hours. We hear that former Chelsea boss and Bayern Munich boss, talking about Thomas Tuchel, has indicated his interest to become the Three Lions manager. Of course, you know that Lee Castley is the interim manager of England. I don't know what you make of, Thomas Tuchel.
Yeah, I think that for Thomas Tuchel, one man who has been in club setup for some time, he looks like the man that might just take over, because the English national team looks for a coach that has that experience. Castley has played 2 games, and then he has won 2 games, and he has lost, So I think that it's like redeeming time for them. And generally, if you ask me, I think what is obtainable is they will look at it, they have discussed with him, more discussions will still be ongoing. But can Tuchel take care of a national team? Yes, of course. He has the players, he has everything going for him, and I'm not going to be surprised to see how far things like this go on. But one thing very striking, Mike, is if Tuchel becomes the coach of the national team, it's an experience. After all, Mauricio Pochettino left the club side football to go coach the national team. That's the job that is available. So you get to the point, you just tell yourself the truth. Will I be doing nothing? The national team, job this day, with the way games are coming left and center, you don't stay too long, because in every 3 months, every 2 months, you have a game to play. But let's see how far. At some point, Eddie Howe was also named to be part of this particular setup. More names have also been listed, but if at the end of the day they go on with Thomas Tuchel, then we'll get to see how far it goes, Mike.
All right, let's get to see how far it goes for Thomas Tuchel, who is bidding to take up the position of Lee Castley as the permanent or substantive manager of the Three Lions as it is right now. Temple, I don't know whether there's any other story that is still popping in from your end.
No, not really. Not really. Just to say that CAF are really determined to give a just judgment on the issue between Nigeria and Libya for the purpose of fairness. Don't forget that the North Africans have an overwhelming right when it comes to African football.
True.
And talking about Libya, Libya controls the export ratio of OPEC. In fact, they are one of the most producing oil in terms of oil producing states in Africa. And so you don't joke with such states. So a lot of economic indices are also tied around. And Mosaic, being a businessman, you know the affinity that he shares with some of these oil producing states. But regardless, I think that Nigeria has a very strong say. If it was any other state, maybe it wouldn't have degenerated to this level, or maybe the matter wouldn't have been taken this level. But it is Nigeria we're talking about here, a respected nation in the African continent. So let's see how far it goes, Mike.
Let's see how far it goes, but this is where we drop anchor for this evening edition of our Sport Extraordinary. Please do well to join us tomorrow morning for Sport Talk, where we'll make a return with all the latest happening revolving around the world of sport. You can also do well to go to our different social media, to chat with us, so that we'll keep the conversation going. My name is Emmanuel Michael, and I did the show alongside Ekpo Temple. But before we go, our Sport Extraordinaire for today goes to no other person than William Troost-Ekong. Of course, it truly showed that indeed he deserved to be the captain of the Super Eagles, because he was very busy while in the heat of the drama that they find themselves in Libya, tweeting, making some posts to let the world know what they were passing through. He fought for his team gallantly. So he deserves to be our Sport Extraordinaire for today. Bye-bye. We'll make a return tomorrow, like I said.